Penguin Random House Audio presents The Pursuit of Endurance, harnessing the record-breaking power of strength and resilience. This is the author, Jennifer Pharr Davis. To brew. Chapter 2. A Trail of Endurance. We don't tell them how to enjoy the trail. It's a public resource. Brian King, The Appalachian Trail Conservancy. We need places where our feet can connect with endless dirt and opportunity. Traveling long distances as efficiently as possible has always been a fact of human history. But over the past 2,000 years, it has shifted from a necessity of survival to a means of travel and communication, a source of cultural and religious significance, and today, depending on whom you ask, an outlet for leisure or competition. In Australia, the Aboriginal culture sent its sons on a 6-month walkabout to signify the transition from boyhood to manhood. This demanding rite of passage required young males to survive on their own while tracing the ancient travel routes, or songlines, of their ancestors, sometimes traveling 1,000 miles or more. When they returned home, they were greeted with celebration and trusted with responsibility for the community. In Peru, there are thousands of miles of pathways that link ancient villages. Many of these pathways predate the Incas. Some, such as the narrow winding paths lining Cotahuasi Canyon, are still used today as pedestrian trade routes. Other trails, such as the Inca Trail to Machu Picchu, the sacred city of the Incas, have become international tourist destinations for adventure travelers. I went to Peru a few years out of school, and I convinced my former college roommate that she should join me. Beach trips are overrated, I said. Let's catch up on a hike in Peru. Sensing her uncertainty, I added, "Don't worry, we'll take it easy on the trail and drink lots of coca tea. We'll be fine." We threw up more on the trail than we ever had in college. I still don't know if it was the food, water, altitude, or a combination of all three that put us on an involuntary cleanse, but I recall how poorly I felt as I struggled to ascend the 13,828-foot saddle at the aptly named Dead Woman's Pass. My memories are clouded by weakness and bathroom breaks, but as I hiked in a hunched-over position, I remember the care I took in navigating the loose rocks and steep terrain. It was difficult to find secure foot placement going at the pace of a 3-toed Peruvian sloth. I can't imagine trying to run up the trail, but that is how the Incas communicated. History is filled with the tales of fleet-footed messengers. One of the most well-known is the Athenian messenger Phidippides. The ancient Greek historian Herodotus tells the story of Phidippides, who ran from Athens to Sparta to seek help in warding off the invading Persian army. When Herodotus refers to Phidippides, he describes him as a hemerodrome, which is literally translated as day runner. He suggests that the hemerodrome arrived in Sparta the day after he left Athens, covering approximately 150 miles in less than 48 hours. Then, after relaying his plea for help, he turned around and raced back to the battle at Marathon. The story of Phidippides has morphed with time and retelling. Nowadays, most people believe that he ran between Marathon and Athens, a distance of approximately 25 miles, only to drop dead upon arrival. Popular history has shortchanged Phidippides' ability, but it has also paid him homage by basing the modern-day marathon on his fabled journey to Athens. In the United States alone, over 500,000 people will compete a 26.2-mile race annually. The research and recounting of early distance feats comes across as male-centric. Back then, as in all of history until 100 years ago, the pill was not readily available, and with younger mothers, higher birth rates, and shorter lifespans, the majority of an average woman's life was devoted to childcare. It is logical to deduce that the pregnant nursing mamas were not running through the Andes relaying messages. And if they were, then I really hope there is a petroglyph in some undiscovered cave that depicts the scene. Delivering infants in the age before epidurals and raising children pre-PBS kids could be considered more of an endurance feat than running between Sparta and Athens. But when it comes to covering long distances in a short time, there were physical and cultural limitations for most women in history. There is also, however, some evidence that suggests that in many ancient cultures, women, particularly pre-adolescent girls, were an equal part of the pack. One of the earliest examples of human endurance is persistence hunting. In this tradition, a group of hunters would chase an animal until it fell from exhaustion. It is estimated that the average distance covered in a persistence hunt was nearly 20 miles. The ability to control body temperature, or thermoregulate, allowed hunters to outlast and eventually overtake their supper. In modern times, hikers and runners pass many a mile daydreaming about their post-race meal. Persistence hunting takes food incentives to a whole other level. This method sounds prehistoric, and it is. But in a relatively untouched region of the Kalahari Desert, members of the Kung tribe practiced persistence hunting successfully into the 20th century. A female tribe member named Nisa shared memories with American anthropologist Marjorie Shostak of joining her family in tracking and overcoming prey as a young girl. Her first-hand account suggests that this survival technique was more inclusive than previously thought. For thousands of years, distance travel has served to feed one's body and soul. Pedestrian journeys have held spiritual significance for men and women in nearly every major religion. One of the 5 pillars of Islam is a journey to Mecca, known as a Hajj. The practice was instituted by the Prophet Muhammad in 623 AD. Adult Muslims are required to perform a Hajj once in their lifetime. Whereas Muslims today use varying modes of transportation to reach Mecca, the original pilgrims walked and traveled in caravans across Africa and Asia Minor to reach Mecca and worship Allah at his holy city. Buddha identified 4 holy sites worthy of pilgrimage in northern India and southern Nepal that are commonly visited by both Buddhists and Hindus. A sect of monks living on Mount Hiei, near Kyoto, practices a spiritual discipline known as Kaihogyo, or circling of the mountain. The tradition started more than 1,000 years ago and is still observed by a few devout monks today. The challenge begins with participants walking a 25-mile circuit around Mount Hiei for 100 consecutive days. Monks who prove their ability in the 100-day trial then undergo a 1,000-day walking challenge that culminates with the practitioner traveling more than 50 miles a day for the final 100 days. Historically, each monk would take a rope and dagger on the trail to end his life rather than quit the sacred journey. This undoubtedly added to his pack weight and his motivation. For the past 2 millennia, followers of Christ have traveled on pilgrimages to the Holy Land and to sites across Europe. The pilgrimage reached the height of its popularity in the Middle Ages, with sojourners crisscrossing Europe to reach shrines, relics, and sites of divine revelation or inspiration. One of the most well-known routes, the Camino de Santiago, stretches its foot-worn fingers deep into France and Portugal to lead religious wanderers to the city of Santiago in northern Spain, where the bones of Jesus' apostle James are believed to be enshrined. Several years ago, I was asked to guide a high school confirmation class from an Episcopal church on a week-long trek of the Camino de Santiago. I went into the trip thinking that after successfully leading numerous groups through the backcountry of the southern Appalachians, taking a handful of teenagers on a wide path through the villages and farms of Galatia should be easy and underwhelming. But taking a co-ed group of teenagers to Europe is far more stressful than taking them into the woods. Hormones, readily available alcohol, and a lower legal drinking age led me to walk the halls of our auberges or hostels like a prison guard at night.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?